This is John McEntee from Incantation. You're listening to Misery Point Radio. Blah!
Welcome back, mask breathers. Thanks for blessing me with your presence once again on Misery Point Radio. Glad I can count on you to artificially boost my self-esteem just enough for me to keep pushing buttons and flapping my face hole. It's because of you, my imaginary friends, that I continue to sit in my little corner of the wasteland and somehow brainwash these badass guests into coming on the show and sharing their awesomeness. And let me tell you, the badassery just never stops. And today, you are in for an extra special OG dose of Misery Point Radio. I know, you're welcome. Today's guest has been polluting our ear holes with his original style of death metal for over 30 years. As the founding member of OG death metal band Incantation, he is often credited with helping to create the New York death metal scene back in the late 80s and early 90s, and 3 decades later is still cited as an influence on countless numbers of aspiring metal musicians. I'm talking about none other than Mr. John McEntee. John and I shot the shit about a whole ton of stuff. Why he moved away from New York, what he's been doing during quarantine, the status of the new Incantation album, and a ton of awesome Incantation history, including the absolutely crazy story of how one bad day out on tour ultimately led to some pretty big changes for the band, including John taking over vocal duties. And if that wasn't enough, he shared his experience playing on everyone's favorite dream gig, 70,000 Tons of Metal, and how he views interacting with his fan base. Super cool. There's a ton of awesome stories and history in here, told by one of the true godfathers of the scene. John is such a laid-back and super cool dude, so easy to talk to, which is why we ran a little long on this one, but you can consider it a bonus, no extra charge. Once again, you're welcome. So pull that tactical flashlight out of your ass, put down that bleach-loaded syringe, and prepare for OG awesomeness. Here we go. Hey, John, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you being here.
Cool. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate you having me on for sure.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. So what's going on over in your neck of the woods? Are you in North Carolina now?
Yeah, I just moved to Greensboro about, I guess it's almost a year ago now. A little less than a year ago, but yeah, I guess it was summertime, so less than a year, 8 months ago or something. But I love it down here. It's just a lot nicer than up in the north. You know, I mean, the winter here was totally awesome compared to what I'm used to. You know, I mean, I had a fun time living. I mean, it was nice to live in Johnstown, Pennsylvania for a while, but it just it's nice to not have the morning snows and stuff like that. And you know, I mean, I heard the winter was pretty mild up there too, but still got a couple snowstorms. So I'm happy to stay away from that. I just like the weather and the vibe down here is cool. I'm down with it.
What brought you away from New York originally into the Pennsylvania area?
Well, it was just a situation where I just had a kind of a new beginning in life, and I decided that I would, go somewhere where I wanted to be instead of a place where I just was because I was. I mean, I travel the U.S. so much that I know that I wanted to be more down south, and I didn't really know how far to go. I didn't want to go too far away from Northeast necessarily, and North Carolina seems like a good option. You know, it's nicer than being up north, as far as weather and stuff like that goes. But it's still, Greensboro's still a decent city and stuff. It's not a huge city, but it's decent. And it just seemed like the right thing to do. I mean, I was, contemplating going to someplace like Texas or something like that, but just a little bit too far away from, everybody, like in the band and stuff like that. I mean, I have friends there and stuff, but it just, this is still like within reason to still get up to Columbus where we practice and stuff sometimes, Oh,
okay. And let's be honest, that North Carolina metal scene is fucking raging. It's just awesome.
Well, yeah, it's really cool because it's North Carolina's kind of been up and down throughout the years. Sometimes it was from touring, it was just not kind of a dead zone for a little while, but in the last couple of years, it's really been picking up a lot. I mean, it's always had great bands, but it just seems like it's kind of probably in its prime. I mean, before all this, coronavirus stuff happened, I mean, there was a good amount of shows going on, either Charlotte, Raleigh, or Greensboro, or Asheville. It's just, it's actually a pretty good place for metal these days, which I think is great. It's great that it's a good scene because, like I said, in the past, we've had mixed opinions on North Carolina as far as metal scene. We always thought it was nice, but the metal scene was always a little bit to be desired sometimes. I mean, I'm talking like 20 years ago or something like that. It was a rougher scene over here. But we've also had good shows here in North Carolina too in the past. It was just like, it was kind of like hit or miss. Like it would either be like a really killer show or it would just be a terrible show or something. But now all the shows, have been good. I mean, everyone I've been to has been a lot of people, and it was cool because a lot of people I know too, just from touring, and just I've had friends in North Carolina too. There's a band, like a crossover band, old band called Slugnut that our drummer used to be friends with. He used to live, he lived in Myrtle Beach for a while, and I guess the guys from Slugnut were either over there, somehow they got connected or something. So I know those guys from the old scene, and then there's still a bunch of people I've met over the years and stuff. It's kind of cool because they don't expect me to be living over here in North Carolina, so I just go to a show like I normally do, and people come up to me and like, oh, what are you doing here?
Like what? I can't be here. What's going on?
Yeah, I just happened to pick. I decided to go to a show in Raleigh just for shits and giggles.
Yeah. That's awesome. I was supposed to be up that way because that Violence show that sadly got postponed with Outlier. All booked, ready to go, hotel, everything, boom, no mas. So super bummer. I was looking to get up that way for the first time, but we'll make it happen again. So I guess the real question is, now that you've been in the three places kind of along that coast, who's got the better food?
Well, I mean, I like the food over here really, really a lot. I mean, I found some really cool places to eat around here, but I mean, I grew up in New York, and New York has some good food too.
Everything in New York.
Yeah, I mean, anything you could find, and it's good. It's just that you're surrounded by 10 million people or more, so it's like, it makes it not as fun, it's nice to be able to go out somewhere and not have it be packed to the gills and not take you like 2 hours to get to the place you want to go to and stuff.
Yeah. Well, Seattle's not too different than that. It's pretty, aside from the current time frame where everything's kind of a ghost town, if you could walk out to a restaurant on a Friday or a Saturday right downtown, good luck even getting a seat. And I hope you like eating on your feet because that's probably what you're going to end up doing.
Yeah, but I mean, it's one of those things where I'm always, New York, New Jersey is always going to have a special place in my heart. That's where I grew up and stuff. But, the older I get, the more I like being in a place where it's more chill, because I mean, I tour so much that it's like, I'm in big cities all over the world, throughout the year. So it's like when I get home, I want to just have it be an oasis and just, have fun and just not have to, deal with lots of people and traffic and stuff like that, because I mean, I'm not necessarily a total people person. I mean, metal people, it's fine, but when it comes to like normal people and like normal people stuff, I'm kind of like, I just don't relate because my life, revolves around music and touring and stuff like that. And most normal people, they just don't get it. They think that, just because you're touring, you're some kind of like huge rock star or something like that, and it gets really awkward,
For sure, yeah. Well, with all that craziness going on right now that we were talking about, how many shows did you guys have to cancel? Did you have stuff? I'm sure you had stuff in the hopper.
Yeah, we had some stuff booked. We didn't have a lot of stuff booked, luckily, but we did have it was Oblivion Fest in Austin, Texas. It was a really cool show. It was us and Autopsy, and I think a band called, was it Creeping Death or something? Some Metallica named band I never heard of, but it was like part of a fest that they have over there with like multiple clubs and stuff like that. And that one was supposed to be in the beginning of June, and that got canceled. And we were actually going to book a small run around it. We were looking at getting like some stuff from North Carolina out that way and back, but make it just a little mini tour or something. But we had to scrap that whole idea. And then we had a couple festivals in Europe. It never 100% solidified the European thing, because we kind of knew that there was a good chance things were going to get screwed up, so it was like, as it was getting closer to getting fully booked, our booking agent kind of said, like, well, you got to wait and see what's going on. And then they canceled all the stuff like in Germany until August. And we had a couple of German fests. We were doing I don't remember which ones we were doing. Oh, we were doing Obscene Extreme, which is in Czech Republic. I think that one got canceled too. I mean, they're all getting canceled, so we had to basically cancel our summer fest run that was going to be in July, which it's a bummer. I always have fun doing that stuff, but it's, you do what you got to do. It's crazy times, so it's better to be safe. And we do have a fest in Quebec coming up, the Quebec Death Fest in September. It's not canceled yet, so I'm hoping that it still happens. But the way things are looking, it's looking like it probably won't. But I didn't get any word from the Metal Fest guys to say if it was canceled or not.
Yeah, it's tricky too, because there's that fine line between canceling a show outright and hoping you can just postpone it. But at some point, when everything is postponed, it's all got to get scheduled again within that same time frame. Everybody's scrambling to reschedule. That's just going to make it super tough on all the venues for sure.
Well, a lot of times, a lot of them have been postponing it just to the next year around the same time, because everybody's schedule, it's hard to get all those bands in the proper schedule to make it happen. There's usually, there's a lot of logistics in it. So if things get canceled or postponed, it's going to be probably the same time next year. So next year is going to be like kind of strange, because it's going to be a bunch of fest with the lineup they're supposed to have the year before. And what do you do about the bands that want to play this year? You can't like double up every fest.
Have a double festival or something. I don't know. Make it a weekend. Who knows?
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit interesting when things kind of get back on, track with shows and festivals and big events. So let's see what happens. I don't know. Yeah. I'm not really worrying about it too much. I'm just, once things get back on track, then we'll just figure out what the game plan is.
Yeah, for sure. What have you been doing with your time then? I mean, are you sitting around watching like Tiger King and Ozark, or just watching your beard grow?
Yeah, no, I mean, this was like the first forced break I've had in, I don't remember how long. I mean, quite a long time. I mean, since we put out probably our Vanquish and Vengeance album, which was 2012.
Yeah.
I've only had minimal amount of time between then and now to like actually be forced to do nothing, strictly band related, like touring or just organizing stuff or whatever. So this is the first real break I've had. So it's actually been kind of cool, because I've had time to reflect a little bit, just going through, I have like a huge box of old flyers and just assorted like show and band memorabilia. And I was able to kind of organize that stuff a little bit, and just kind of interesting, because I was able to reflect on like how much shit I've done over the years, because you don't think about it, because you just like do it, because I just play music and we tour and we play shows and we just, it's kind of like it just keeps going. I never get a real time to sit back and be like, oh, wow, I did some really cool stuff, you know? And just to think of the quantity of shows that we played, I don't even have an idea. And besides that, I've also been writing, because when I have downtime, it's not like I plan on writing, but just when I have time, to focus on it, it just comes out or whatever. Like anybody that is a music writer, knows that sometimes the ideas just come whenever, but they materialize more now because I don't have the touring stuff on my mind, other stuff on my mind. So it's actually the clearer my mind is, it seems like the more music stuff to have. And we've been writing a bunch of Incan songs. We recorded our Incantation, our newest one, end of last year, between a couple tours. We finished it pretty much before the Morbid Angel tour we did with Watain, and it was supposed to come out, actually probably supposed to come out now, but everything got screwed up with the virus stuff. So that we have one that's waiting to come out, and we already have a good chunk of another one written that we still need to jam as a band when we get together. But I have a lot of stuff written. All the guys have a lot of stuff written already for the next one. So we're kind of ahead of the game. Plus, we've been just trying to compile. We have a bunch of live recordings that we did over the years that we're trying to kind of mess around and compile. And I also have like a side project with Paul Speckman from Master and Eduardo from Nerval Chaos that we've been working on and off since about 2000.
Is that a Beast of Revelation?
No, this is a different one. This is one that I've been doing since 2012, but we just never got it done. And we never came up with a name for it because we wanted to wait until like we recorded it and had lyrics. We don't have any lyrics to the song, so we don't know what to call it and make sense out of it.
Right.
So we had this side thing going on forever, and finally now I have time to finish it up. We recorded the music for it about a year or two ago. I can't remember, but I just need to do some touch-ups. I just got sidetracked with touring. I just couldn't focus on it. Now I have a chance to focus on it and do it. But yeah, what was it? Now the other side stuff that I had was the Tribes of Pazuzu, which was a band that I play guitar in. Basically it's a Canadian band. It has Nick used to play with Soulstorm, and what's drummer from Cryptopsy? Flo from Cryptopsy. It was a project. It was something where I didn't write any music really. I don't think I did, at least. If I did, I don't remember. But I think it was I just played guitar because they need a guitar player for it. And then at the same time, I did the vocals for that Beast of Revelation album, which I did that probably about a year and a half ago or something. The vocals to that, it came out really good. Once I heard the final mix, really both the releases, the Tribes of Pazuzu came out really good, and the Beast of Revelation. And what I liked is that they're both totally different. One is more of a kind of a death metal band, kind of old school death metal, different from Incan, though more of that tighter Vader type sound. And the Beast release, that one is more death doom,
very doomy. Yeah,
for me it's fun. If I'm gonna do different projects, I want to have a kind of a different vibe to it. I don't want to just do another band that sounds like Incantation. Plus there's too many Incantation bands out there now that sound like us, so why do I need to do another one on top of the one I already have?
I believe the word that has been thrown around is inclontation.
Yeah, probably. I haven't heard that one, but that makes sense. I mean, there's a lot of bands, and it's flattering though. It's not. Yeah. I mean, you got to look at it like, we started the style, over 30 years ago. Yeah. And the fact that it's inspired other bands, that's the biggest form of flattery that any songwriter can get, is when people, take what you do and use it as an influence to what they do, and create their own band around some of the influences. Kind of, we never thought Incan would ever be an influential band. It wasn't really. It wasn't even a thought. We were just wanting to be as much assholes as possible, be as heavy as possible, make it as heavy, brutal, evil, dark. All the stuff when you're really young and you just wanted to just tell everybody to fuck off. And
right.
Even the other death metal bands, we wanted to be something a step deeper. There were a lot of great death metal bands of the early 90s, late 80s, but we wanted to be even deeper as far as darker and eviler and brutaler. And we kind of accomplished it. And like I said, it's nice. It took about 15 years until bands started finally trying to understand, or having the will to want to understand what we were doing. But now it's pretty crazy, because I see metal fests and stuff, or death fests and stuff, with all bands that sound kind of like us in one way or another, which is flattering as hell, And a lot of young kids are really into it, which is really cool. Who would have thought that, 30 years into our career, we would have young kids mimicking our sound. You would have thought it would be way past our prime as a band, but instead it's now it's art. Maybe we were just so ahead of our time back then. I know it sounds kind of egotistical to say that, but maybe we were ahead of our time and didn't even realize it, didn't think about it. We were just doing what we do.
Yeah, those early days, the influences that you had were definitely going to be different, because, death metal didn't really become a thing officially, until the kind of mid to late 80s. So, yeah. By the time Onward came out, there wasn't really a whole ton of stuff already on the market. It was there, but it wasn't like it is now, where you get radio play and there's shows and podcasts and YouTube and everything kind of dedicated to it. Hell, just to hear a death metal song on the radio was astronomical. I remember when Morbid Angel got signed to Giant Records and people were losing their shit, because it was like, oh my God, they're on a major label. It was unheard of. It was super just crazy. And now it's a whole different scene. But I do think that, as people, especially if they're musicians, go back and they want to try to look at different stuff, so they go back and they look at what started the scene. And, each coast kind of got known for certain things. We had the West Coast stuff, and then the East Coast. You guys are kind of if there was a big four, we'll say, of New York death metal at the time. It'd be you guys, of course, Immolation, Cannibal, Suffocation, maybe Mortician if you want to throw them in there. Malevolent kind of thrown around in there somewhere. But, and then down in Florida, they had the Tampa scene, so that whole area. But that was the time. That was kind of we'll call it the spawning point of that, late 80s, early 90s was. I still look at that stuff. I still listen to that kind of stuff, and it's hard to. I love the new stuff. I love a lot of bands that I've been introduced to recently, but when I go back and I plug in an album, the first thing I want to do is go back and just pull out something old and go, oh yeah, nostalgia hits me in the face, and I want to listen to old stuff.
The thing that's different about the recordings and stuff back then is that there wasn't the template that we have now. Nobody knew really how death metal was supposed to sound on recording. So, there were a lot of bands that, did either the Mars Sound or Sunlight Studios or something like that. But, there were also a lot of bands that were trying to, didn't want that same sound that, say, Morbid Angel, Obituary had. They're great bands, but, we didn't want to be them. They were already doing that. Bands like, say, us and Immolation, we wanted to have a more of a darker atmosphere type sound. And we were actually a little concerned to go to something like, a Mars Sound, where they might overclean everything up, because for us, having that rough edges on it was kind of part of the whole picture,
Yeah, the rawness of it was really what endeared people to your stuff. And I believe that they coined a phrase, cavernous, right? You get that thrown out a lot. You're a cavernous band, and I'm sure you're like, I don't know what the fuck that means, but cool, I'll be a cavernous band.
Yeah, a lot of it was kind of funny, because a lot of people, people consider the first cavernous album as our second album, Immortal Throne Nazarene. And it was just kind of funny because, yeah, it does sound kind of cavernous, but, you know, it was just the way it came out. Like, we didn't really even, I mean, we tried to make it as sick and dark and twisted as possible, but, you know, the production and stuff like that, I mean, it just coincidentally came out. I mean, for all of us, we didn't really understand enough about production and stuff like that on our stuff. You know, we just knew if we heard it and it sounded sick and heavy as fuck, you know, it wasn't like I wasn't going there like, because I knew that I didn't want, you know, like the super tight thrash type sound, because we weren't thrash. We were, you know, death metal band. We wanted that rougher vibe, but it's,
otherwise you just stayed with Revenant.
Yeah, I could have stayed at Revenant. Revenant was a great band. It just wasn't my thing, you know. So anymore, I wanted to do the rough edge. Yeah, so I did. I had the chance to do that technical thrashing, and it was great while I was into it, you know. But it's like, you know, once I started hearing the you know, the more darker stuff at that time, like, I don't know, I really started getting into like the early Necrophagia demos and stuff, and just like Sarcophago and just a bunch of really rough bands like Necrovore, you know, real underground stuff.
Real underground stuff, yeah.
And I like that feeling that stuff had to it, you know. I like the raw edge. And actually a big turning point in my life was in 88. Revenant and Immolation, we played with Morbid Angel at Streets in New York, and you know, we thought, both us and Immolation thought we were pretty good and pretty heavy, you know. And then after opening up for Morbid Angel, watching Morbid Angel play, and they just were at a whole nother level of, like, you know, I mean, the quality of it was just amazing. It was so brutal, so evil, so dark. I mean, it was also really tight. It was just I just remember seeing that and being like, fuck, you know, fuck. It's like, you just know what you're doing needs to be, you need to step up, you know, we need to step up our own game or whatever, pretty much, you know. And, you know, at that point is when I actually was trying to push Revenant to go more in what I would consider what now to be the Incan sound or whatever, but they just weren't having it. They were actually looking at things from the opposite angle, and they were looking at bands maybe like, you know, Death, or maybe Atheist, a little more technical stuff, you know. And they wanted to go more in that direction, you know. And that's when I knew, it's like, you know, it's like, yeah, I could stay in this band, and they were going to put out an album on Nuclear Blast Records, but I was like, man, do I really want to do an album that can't stand behind 100%, you know? Because I just knew that if we're going to do it, I was just going to be arguing with them, not because I'm mad at them or hate them, but I would argue because I had a different opinion on the way things should be. And instead of causing a problem and maybe ruining the Revenant album, I, you know, was like, screw it, I'll just do my own thing. And, you know, if it fails or whatever, okay, it fails, but at least I failed doing my own thing, instead of trying to just stay with the band because they're going to release an album, Nuclear Blast. And back then it was a really big deal to get signed. It's not like now anybody can get signed to something, but back then there was like, you know, 3-4 labels, and maybe 2 of them might even give you a possible chance, and the rest of them are like not even a chance at all to get signed to. So, you know, to kind of deny doing the Revenant album with those guys was, you know, people thought I was retarded. Like, all my friends, they couldn't understand why I just didn't do the album and leave. But it was like, you don't get it. It's like there's an integrity aspect to it, you know. It's like playing music. It's not just cool, I did an album and now I'm cool because I did an album. It's like, no, I want to stand behind it. And if I have to do an album, I can't stand behind it, it's like, screw it, you know. It's like, I mean, back then, you know, yeah, I just had to, you know, I just wanted to keep my integrity, and you know, once we did in Canada, it was like, okay, we did the album. We didn't know if anybody would like it, but we're like, fuck it. This is what we like. We feel it's a killer album, and, fuck the world if they don't like it. And they ended up liking it. I mean, it ended up doing really good for us, but, it was a surprise. It wasn't like we were like, okay, we're going to write these songs, everyone's going to like us, and we're going to be some big band. It's not about that. It's all about the feeling. It's all about being sincere to yourself. And it's to this day a reason why I continue to do Incantations, because it's my outlet for what I want to do. If I ever decide I don't want to play death metal or don't want to play in the style of Incantation, I won't do it. But I'm not going to stop doing it for any reason except for I just don't feel it. It's like, I want people, when they listen to our music, they're getting an honest piece of all of us performing on the album. They're not getting something that, I don't know what you want to say, made for their liking. It's like, if people like our stuff, it's kind of like they're on our team, like, cool, you like, you believe in the same stuff we believe in musically. It's not like we're trying to
you're writing it for you, and if they want to hop on board, then that's just a fucking bonus.
Yeah, it's been like that the whole time. And there's been times when, people didn't want to hop on board because there were other trends. I mean, there were always some people. We've always had some fans, but there's been times in our career that have been pretty low, and it's crazy because I really like in about 2001, I think we did the Blasphemy album. That's one of my personal favorites. It's one of my personal favorite albums that we ever did, and it came out the time when a bunch of like Halloween cover bands started coming all out on Nuclear Blast, or like symphonic black metal, like bands like Demi Borgir and stuff, with the really big orchestra type stuff. That stuff was really popular, and we decided to do our most stripped down death metal album of all at the same time. But it just felt right, because we just wanted to do it. And then now that album is, by our hardcore fans, is considered one of their favorites. A lot of bands like Dead Congregation, those guys say that's the album that kind of did it for them, which was nice to know that there was still this underground churning at that time, under all that more, say, commercial side of metal at that time. But, we did an album we were able to stand behind and be proud of, and still to this day, it's still one of my favorite albums. I just listen to it, and I just feel I feel the essence of it. It just feels true to me. It was the right thing to do, when, I mean, we could have done try to add all the bullshit bells and whistles, or try to, other kind of death metal bands that were out around that time was like Nile and Angel Corpse, which are both great bands, yeah. But they weren't, we weren't that, and a lot of bands from our era were trying to jump on that bandwagon about playing that really fast style, or trying to add like the samples like Nile and stuff. And it's just like, we're not, no, definitely, that was only 10 years after we started. And it was like, we're not going to disgrace ourselves by, trying to jump on any trend like that. I mean, those bands are great bands, but it should be, different. It's good that it's different. It's good that there's death metal bands out there that are different. I don't want all bands that sound, if everyone thought the same way I did, it would be a fucking boring ass musical world,
Right. Well, clearly you're doing something right, because 30 years and you're still doing it. Now, the caveat to that, of course, is that how we gauge success in the extreme metal industry is going to be different than how you gauge success, for instance, in the pop industry or in kind of the mainstream industry. I mean, we're not talking about the levels of support. So what is the reality of things these days? I mean, you have your labels, they're still putting out stuff. You guys are still signed, but you're not getting, the reality. It's really tough to make a living playing this kind of music. Is that still the case?
Yeah, it's definitely the case. You have to be, really smart, with, financial stuff to try to make everything work out properly. But like for us, it's like this is probably overall the best time for the bands in our career. I mean, it's hard to compare because there's always something special about that time when we started and everything was like kind of new and fresh and stuff like that. So that's a really special time, and to go from a demo band to being what would be considered like a contender in a death metal world at that time was phenomenal. But now it's different. Now there's the quality and level of success is just a lot better now. We get in so many more great opportunities. We're well respected by so many people in the death metal underground, and just the bands that use us like as influences, or just the respect of staying true for all this time. So this right now is for me is the best time in the band. I mean, the guys I play with are amazing guys. They're all high quality players. The vibe is just really good on stage, hanging out. I mean, we've learned a lot over 30 years as far as how to make things work. And we have a good management team working with us to help us kind of navigate through the times, because it's really difficult for somebody like me that started off with a scene that's completely 100% different to the scene now and stuff. The way we did things in the late, I will say that anywhere in the 80s compared to the way you do things now is, completely different. And I love metal and love death metal stuff, but I'm not trendy with it. I'm very strict on the stuff that I like, I'm open-minded, but I'm open-minded to not like stuff too, but I give it the, I give things a listen, and if I think it sucks, I think it's fair to say that I think it sucks. And just because I think it sucks doesn't mean that everybody should think it sucks, but for me, it might suck. But the way the metal scene is now, it's good to have be working with Relapse and with our management team, because they understand the way things work now better than I do. I don't know how to navigate through so much of the different digital streamings and stuff like that, and somehow Relapse finds a way to monetize enough off it to make it worth to do more albums and stuff. So we're very fortunate that we have people that are able to kind of help us keep the ball rolling and stuff. But I mean, as far as like show wise and touring wise, I mean, things never been better. I mean, last couple tours, the just the amount of merch that we've been selling at shows has been really really amazing, and a lot of young kids getting into it, and it's, for us, it's really nice to see a younger generation really appreciating the stuff we're doing. It's not definitely not expected,
And from a business standpoint, merch is where it's at for a lot of bands, because I mean it's instantaneous and it doesn't have to go through multiple channels. I mean, you just get it. It
saves our ass on tour, trust me. Because
absolutely.
The tour is really expensive. The tour, I mean, I feel bad for the bands that got tours canceled and had to get merch printed up for the tour, maybe had to, rent some kind of vehicle to travel and stuff like that. I mean, all that stuff adds up. People don't realize that, if you're not touring, they don't realize that it's super expensive to do all that stuff. I mean,
especially if you don't have label support.
Yeah, but nobody has label support anymore, really. Anyway, I mean, even us, when we tour, the label sometimes helps us out with a little bit of merch, maybe, a little bit, but they just can't afford to do that. So, I mean, even for us before doing the tour, I mean, there's tens of thousands of dollars that have to be invested before I even leave my house to do the tour.
So self-financing is still a big portion of what what you guys in the
Yeah.
scene are doing.
So it's tough, you know, if, you know, but we've been fortunate that it's been paying off for us. But I think it, you know, I mean, it's hard for me to say because I feel it in, you know, on my own, but it's like when we play, I just feel that I feel like we're kicking ass, you know, it might sound retarded, but it's like, I feel like the guys that I'm working with and stuff and playing with are all, everyone's really, you know, playing at a high level, and just the overall feeling is really, really awesome. And it's just, I mean, it makes it so much fun. Like now when I play on stage, I'm just happy as fuck, you know, just like, just to get on stage and, you know, I pick up my guitar and I just hit an E chord and I'm just like,
that's it. Yeah.
I'm ready for metal, you know, such a good feeling. And then just play, you know, playing the show and just seeing other people react to it. I mean, you know, I'm a songwriter more than probably anything else. So it's like, you know, writing these songs and having people appreciate it is just, you know, it's, for me, it's like everything in life. It's everything that I've worked for. It's like my my life's achievement. You know.
Well, and you've had the chance. I mean, you consistently tour, you consistently release. I mean, you're doing albums every couple of years, other than, you know, back when there was about a 6-year span, you know, around 2012 or so. But you're constantly working and doing things. In fact, you recently had a chance, which I wanted to ask you about, to play 70,000 Tons.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Which to me, as a fan, seems like the dream show. But as a performer, I just can't imagine that there's any cooler gig than that. Am I wrong?
No, it's awesome to play. I mean, it's a lot of fun. The overall vibe is good, and it's really good for me because I'm a music fan, not just a music player. Some musicians, you know, they don't really like hanging out so much with people, but I like hanging out with bands or other bands and just having a, you know, really good time. Just the vibe on the ship is really, really awesome. Every time we get an opportunity to do that, we do it. We've done it 2 times so far, and both times were amazing. It's great because you play for people from all over the world, you know, and it's either people that places where we don't normally play. Like some people, you know, some countries where you just don't get many shows at all, will just travel just to that to go to it. And, but then we'll see a lot of old friends and stuff like that, you know. And for me, like, you know, yeah, this last one I just had so much fun. Just checking out bands, being a fanboy myself, you know, just checking, you know, it's a lot of fun. Just the vibe, everyone's in good spirits, you know, and I'm, you know, walking around the ship and you know, walking right by Cronus from Venom, you know, it's just like, you know, just, you know, whoever, you know, hanging out with the Possessed guys, Suffocation was on board, a bunch of friends of ours. It was just a good way to hang out, and not even those people, but just like fans and stuff like that, you know. Just nice, you know, just doing what you do, and just have people come up to you and just, you know, want to shake your hand or have you sign something or just talk, you know, hang out and just talk to whoever, you know, from some part of the world where, you know, we don't normally play, and we get to hang out and have, like, you know, 10-15 minute conversation on stuff or whatnot, you know. It's just a great vibe. It's a great thing that they do with the ship. Yeah, I can't say enough good things about it. For me, it's perfect. And if I was, you know, like the young me, say 15 or 14 years old, that would be my dream come true, to be on a ship like that with just metal and a bunch of metal bands and fans. I'd probably kill myself on that ship if I would have had that opportunity as a teenager to do that.
Well, the 45-year-old me thinks the exact same thing about it. That's just pretty legit as far as, you know, what's available. You know, the lineups are always killer. You can't go wrong.
Yeah, and it's good, too, because there's a lot of different styles of metal on there, too. So it's a good cross-pollination to the scene, too. Like, you could check out stuff that maybe you might not have ever seen before. I mean, because they always have a lot of really for what I consider like off the wall kind of metal bands. It's like just different stuff than, say in part of my metal world, like some of the folk metal and just like, different odd subgenres that I don't really get a chance to see. And not necessarily I like them or don't like them, but it's cool that they're there, that it's a mixture of everything. And people, fans, could maybe get turned on to something else. Maybe a folk metal guy will like Incantation or vice versa. So
yeah,
it's good for everybody,
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's on my life goal now at this point, is I've got to get on one of those. So I don't know, maybe I'll try to be a janitor or something on the boat. Try to get a job on there.
I know those people that work on that ship.
Yeah.
They work hard. I mean, there's a lot of work to do on that. I give those guys a lot of credit. They have a great crew, but man, it's a lot of work those guys do. I mean, it's no joke at all. Everybody that works on that ship, I mean, they work hard. I mean, I still see some of them party too after working all day. I'm like, I couldn't be doing stagehand work all day and then like partying all night and getting like an hour sleep and going right back to stagehanding. But these people, these are hardcore people. They know how to do it.
Yeah, I just talked to somebody a couple months back, and he basically said, I think he went 2 or 3 days straight and just didn't even sleep. He goes, I just didn't even bother. He was working it.
Some people are like that.
Hey, if you're gonna be somewhere, you're locked in. I mean, you can't go too far, so you're probably gonna be all right. Somebody's gonna see you.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't too long after that gig that we started seeing some pictures pop up of maybe a little project you're working on, a little guitar action, getting something built, maybe SP custom stuff.
Yeah.
So tell us about that. How did you get wrapped up with Scott? How did you meet him, and how did you decide you wanted to get a guitar built?
Yeah. Well, when we played in Greensboro on the Contamination tour when we did with Dying Fetus and stuff, and he was at the show, and I don't know, after the show, he came up to me and basically started pimping his guitar, and showing me stuff, and it was cool. I mean, I was down with it, and he told me, some of the people he worked with and some people I know, and, he was showing me stuff, and I was definitely interested in it, and basically, not too long after I moved to Greensboro, I was thinking like, fuck, there was some dude that, built guitars, down here or whatever. I got to look him up. And I finally looked him up on my Facebook, and I sent a message and just said, I'm living here in town now, and I just kind of I can't remember what exactly info I wanted. Maybe I was trying to do, I was looking for a vocal studio, I think, for a new album, because I needed to do some vocal touch-ups, and I didn't have a studio built here yet, so I think I was asking about that. I can't remember, but anyway, he just, he brought up, if you want, you could build a guitar, and I was like, yeah, hell fucking yeah, I mean, I've been a guitar player for a long time, but I don't really know a lot about building guitars, or like that kind of stuff. So it was kind of cool that I end up living really close. So it's like we can go to his shop and I could have a actual part in building a guitar, learning how to do the trade and stuff like that too with them, and it's kind of cool to actually, have a part in, my own guitar, work, we worked on a shape together, try to come up with something that I feel comfortable with. And, there's a lot of details about it that he knows that I don't know anything about, what's good or bad. Like, I don't even know what wood's good or not. I just know I pick up my guitar I use and it just sounds good and I'm happy, So, I'm kind of learning a lot about the actual, actual different options on guitars and stuff like that. So for me, it's just been a total blast to, work on it. I mean, we've been making pretty good progress before this, coronavirus stuff happened, and we kind of had to put brakes on building it for a little bit,
Sure.
but hopefully once this gets, done with and stuff, and get back to finishing up, because we do have actually a pretty good amount of it done. And we had like the fretboard ready, and we were just about to cut out the shape, and then all this crap happened. It was kind of a bummer, but I'm really psyched about it. I know we went to Mexico. We did a tour with Suffocation, and Terrence had.
You saw Hobbs's Hobbs locks.
Yeah, exactly. And he let me try it out while I was there, and just kind of cool. And we were able to rap a little bit about the guitar stuff and whatnot.
Well, you're taking on an active role though in trying to learn the trade a little bit, take on some new stuff, and be involved in the actual production of it, which I think is pretty awesome.
Yeah, well, it's cool. I mean, I told him, was like, once we get the guitar done and stuff like that, I mean, if I have time or whatever, I could help with, some of the guitar stuff, that he needs help with or whatever. It's more of a labor of love for me to do, but, it'd be kind of cool. I mean, if somewhere down the line it gets to the point where, somebody wants, say, a guitar similar to the one I have or something, I could help build a thing for whoever the fan is or a person is. So it'd be kind of cool. Why not? I mean, I know for me, when, I was, younger with my BC Riches, I was really, psyched to meet, somebody that worked at BC Rich or whatever, just to talk to him, so it's kind of cool to have a actual, input in. And Scott's a great guy. He's he's really talented with that stuff. I mean, he knows, he built some really good guitars, and I know he has a lot of stuff in the fire. I mean, I don't know how he does all the stuff he does.
He doesn't know how he does all the stuff he does.
Yeah. But I mean, he does. I mean, then he's doing the stuff with False Prophet too. They're keeping busy and stuff. So I mean, yeah, he has a lot on his plate. I mean, I have a lot on my plate too, so it's sometimes tough to get to the shop, but it's also nice to just work there and just have it. It's kind of like a primal thing. You're actually carving the wood or sanding the stuff. I mean, it's manual labor, but it's cool to have an active part in it.
Well, it looks like you mentioned BC Rich. I mean, the design elements that I've seen, it looks like it may have started his life inspired by a mockingbird and kind of went from there. Was that the idea behind it? That's something you've been familiar with for a long time. So.
Yeah. I wanted to have some of the feel of a mockingbird, because I've been using mockingbird for so long live. It's so comfortable for me. I'm not against other guitar, but when I play live, it just feels right to me. So have that vibe. And I knew that he, grew up as a BC Rich guitar guy. So he already has the fundamentals in it. I mean, the Warlock shape like Hobbs has, obviously is BC Rich influence. I mean, it's it's like I can get the the quality that I would like to have in a BC Rich, but have it, it's his guitar, but it still has all the things that I like about my old BC Riches. Some of the BC Riches I have are customs from the 80s, and they play really nice, really great. But, these days it's like, it's so difficult to get to get a good quality BC Rich for a reasonable price. I mean, they have, I know they opened up a new stores, new owners and stuff like that. And the stuff, I mean, it looks nice. It's really flashy and stuff, but in my opinion, it doesn't have enough of the tradition in there. Like,
it doesn't have the Bernie Rico soul attached to it.
Yeah, it's like they're too sparkly. They're like, back then, yeah, they had some fancy ideas and stuff like that, but sometimes you just want, for me, like I want just a nice all black guitar. Yeah. Fuck everything. Make it simple, or just get someone a nice painted red guitar or whatever. Just something. It doesn't need to be have, the fancy trimming and stuff like that. Because if you build the body nice, the body looks nice on its own. You don't need all these bells and whistles to make it look great or whatever. I mean, I've been wanting for a while. I just wanted a Mockingbird. It didn't have the we would call it I just wanted the one pickup. I just wanted the lead pickup. I didn't want the other pickup in it.
You just want like a single bridge pickup, and that's it.
Yeah, I just want to see. Yeah, exactly. I want a single bridge.
One
pickup.
knob on off, no pickup selector.
Yeah, because I'm playing shows. I want my guitar to be ready to go, least amount of problems possible. I don't want to worry about hitting knobs or hitting switches while playing or whatever. I just want to know I could just plug it in, turn up the volume and play. And you want it to be quality. You want everything to sound good, but you don't need if I was playing other styles of music, yeah, I could use all the different switches and switch between pickups and stuff. But I mostly play rhythm, so it's just like I just need a good quality rhythm sound in my guitar to have the extra pickup. Oh, like every piece that you add extra to the electronics of the guitar, to me, is just something that can go wrong. And I've toured so much that
I was going to say, I'm sure you've got some stuff to back up that idea.
Yeah. I mean, the way I look at it is, the guitar should be like, some kind of like race car that, you just set up for, winning the race. It's not roadworthy or whatever. Yeah, it might not be the best guitar to just chill out and jam with, but when it goes to playing live, it's set up to do a focused goal. It's to sound as heavy as fuck, to be consistent, least amount of problems to deal with. So, with this guitar that I'm building with Scott, I want to make it like that. I want to make it kind of like a, just a high performance guitar, no bullshit. No, like I said, it's gonna just have, one EMG 81 in there, and I'm fine with it. I don't need, the volume, I don't even need the on off switch or nothing for the pickup, just volume. Just have a plug into the instrument cable, and that's it.
I read something that you kind of have the same philosophy with your amps too. You're not really big into tons of pedals and tons of effects and, carrying a whole bunch of different rigs around with you. You just kind of like to keep it short and sweet and to the point.
I try my best. I mean, it's difficult, when you're touring and you using all these effects and pedals. It's just, things get screwed up on the road, get tossed around and stuff. And just, you have pedals, you have, I used to use like the old Boss pedals or whatnot, the chords would get wanky after a while or something, or the input jack would start getting screwed up and stuff. And, these things happen like during the show, it's like, you realize you're playing and all of a sudden you start hearing, chopping out of the guitar. I've been through all that stuff. So I try to keep it as simple as possible. I mean, I sometimes use a wah pedal live, but I try not to even use that unless it's like really necessary for a song. I mean, like I said, for me, it's simpler, better. I mean, the amp that I use, the Revolt amp, it's a custom amp. I just know I could play it and it's just going to sound freaking killer, And like I said, I just have one sound. I don't switch, the different things live. I'm just playing rhythm. So most important thing is I'm in a quality sound. And while I'm talking about gear, the Power by Omega cabinets I use are just phenomenal. I first got hooked up with those guys at the New England Metal and Hardcore Fest, and we were going to bring in our cabs, and Mike from Power by Omega said, "I'll just try our amps. I guarantee it's going to be good," And I was like, okay, fuck it. I don't have to carry my gear in today, so I'll use it,
Right.
So, we used it, and I just remember it never sounded that good live. His cabinet sounded, it was so nice, because a lot of times I get that bottom out sound sometimes, because we have a good amount of low end in our sound. 'Cause I use pretty thick strings, and sometimes if the cabinets just aren't, good enough, you sometimes get like a little bit of I don't know, like a ooh or whatever. Like you don't get like that good low tone in it.
It's not tight and punchy.
Yeah, that's perfect. Not tight and punchy. That low one gets mushy. So so I'm really happy with those two. Those are really badass. And I think if anyone that's heard our tone on the last couple of tours, you could tell that the quality of our gear is also really good, which helps. Because if you don't have good gear, you just can't come across live the way you want to. It's important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's gear is one of those things where sometimes if it's going to break on you, it's going to break on you. But there is stuff out there that's meant to handle the rigors of the road, and you can have all kinds of cool studio stuff just to kind of dick around with and have fun and play. And if you go in and you do your recording, then great, you can add all that stuff in. But the more shit you got to carry with you, like you said, the more problems you're apt to have. I know a lot of people that swear by tube amps until they go on tour. and if something takes a shit on you, and your tech's swapping out tubes in the middle of a show or something. But
the issue is that when you tour, if you tour with lots of gear, you got to have backup to all your gear. So it's actually to tour with a lot of stuff it gets expensive because you need. What do you do if your pedal or something doesn't work? You either don't use the pedal for the show or you have a backup. Even with my amplifier, I bring two. I bring one that's sitting on the side as a backup in case something happens. It kind of sucks to have to carry it around and never use it, but it's like I've been there before where I one time I think I hit one note at a show and amp blew on me. I went and it was like awesome. It kills the vibe.
I just saw Fate's Warning a few months ago, and they opened up, and I've seen them a few times. They're killer. And first song, amp goes out. Boom. Yeah, just the very first song. So they one guitared it for like 3 songs rather than stop the show. They just said, fuck it, we'll just play with one. And then they just had everybody up there trying to figure out why the amp wasn't working. The backup amp wasn't working. They're fucking unhooking everything. It was such a disaster. But the guy was super cool about it. I mean, he came back on after he got it working. He's like, what are you going to do? And everybody just kept playing, and it was really fucking cool.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. He had a good attitude. And talking about Fate's Warning, I'm not that familiar with their newer stuff, but their first 3 albums was a Spectre Within. Night at Brocken was really good, the first one, and
Perfect Symmetry is the one that I always kind of go back to.
I can't remember, but I just remember the first 3 I used to listen to a lot in the 80s. I still have Night at Brocken. I still have that one on vinyl. I don't know if I have the other ones anymore, but that was some killer stuff back then. It was kind of like Iron Maiden influence, a little bit. Like it wasn't thrash, but it had a little bit elements of thrash and a little technical. It was kind of interesting, I haven't followed them for many years, but I remember back in the day they were actually. I used to dig them a lot. Actually, I used to hear them on a local college radio station. They used to play them. That's where I first heard them, and I just remember that guy, singer. I guess he was on the first couple albums, the singer on the first couple albums. I remember he had kind of like a cool, higher version of Bruce Dickinson or something voice,
Yeah, they definitely kind of had that Sanctuary, kind of Nevermore, Dream Theater-y, kind of pre-Dream Theater, but definitely, I think that them and Queensryche and Sanctuary kind of spawned that power metal stuff over in this area. So I catch them every time they come this way.
I like
They're
that
pretty awesome.
First EP a lot by Queensryche too. Queen of the Reich. That one kicked my ass. I mean, I like some.
I'd
of
like
stuff
to hear you sing that.
Yeah, it's a great. The Queen of the Reich is a great song, but yeah, I'll never be able to pull that off. Holy crap!
Yeah, I made it my life school when I was a kid. That was one of the first songs I learned how to play all the way through. I was pretty stoked with myself when I could do it. So yeah, that's
a
awesome.
classic.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I like all that old stuff, and that's funny because people will look at you and be like, "Oh, this guy plays death metal. He must only like death metal," and that's always what people think. Is you realize, well, no, that wasn't around when I was listening to shit. It wasn't there,
Yeah, I mean, the thing was, death metal. Yeah, in most of my teen years, death metal didn't start existing until a certain point. Yeah. I mean, I didn't even know it. I mean, it wasn't even around really. I mean,
well, you helped create it.
When I was first into metal, it was Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, maybe Exciter, Accept, stuff like that, was the stuff I got into. And then you kind of, I would dig in deeper and deeper, but, I mean, death didn't exist at the time. I mean, it existed probably, but they were doing demos, and I was too young to even know what a demo was. I didn't really start trading demos until I was about 16 or 15 or something. And
trading, the tape trading days.
Yeah, I used to do a lot of that back in the day.
I send you this. A lot of stuff. I send you something cool, and you better fucking send me something equally cool, dude. Whoever you are, out in the middle of nowhere.
I used to just some of my friends. I used to work in a record store, and they told me about demos and fanzines and stuff. I was probably 16 years old or something. And once I realized, like, holy crap, like, you could actually get a band's demo, like, I heard of demos, but I didn't know that you could actually buy them or trade them. And then for the next, like, I don't know, probably good 8 years after that, I was just obsessed with, like, trying to hear new music from all over the world. It was pretty fun time doing the tape trading stuff. I mean, blank cassette people must have really made a lot of money off us because we were selling them all, trading them all over the world.
Right. Otherwise known as piracy.
Yeah. Basically,
whatever. We're not casting stones or anything. It's cool.
Yeah. Well, it's like, it can't, trust me, piracy can't be any worse than it is now. Now the floodgates are open.
Oh my God. I know. That's a hot button, man. I mean, it's towing that line between wanting to get your stuff heard, and wanting to get something out of it, but not want to be like, the whole, I need to have all your money, it's tough. And especially if there's, labels involved too. I mean, it opens up a whole big, can of worms for sure. But
I think that's a crazy, it's really difficult thing to navigate. And that's why I'm happy I have other people navigate it for me, the label and stuff like that, because I don't have to really worry about that aspect of it so much, but there's always been piracy, but it was, back in the tape trading days, it was still, you still had to, like, do a little work for it, Now it's super simple, to just download something or, listen to it. And, the streaming stuff, I don't get it because there's the amount of money that I see on statements from streaming are so ridiculously small. I just don't see how it makes sense, but, it makes sense. If Relapse knows how to figure it out, I'm happy for them,
Yeah, we'll let the minions deal with it. That's their job.
It's better for me. I just want to play music and stuff, so,
Hopefully you open up the mailbox one day, or you open up the bank account and there's 14 extra cents with your name on it.
Yeah. Last check I got from, I think it was, I don't know if it was Google, I can't remember who it was from, but it was about, I got $8, for a while while we were touring, I was
for ASCAP payments.
Yeah. I was getting like $20 a month. So I was like, okay, I can get, go out for a nice meal somewhere, off my royalties, You
can get a couple of Whopper meals 2 for $10. So all you guys that beg for free merch, just think about that next time. That's what you're doing to the industry, right? So I shouldn't say it like that, but it is kind of funny. I was talking to somebody else here recently, and somebody who's quite well known, and he was like, yeah, it's really funny. Sometimes I don't expect to get the money, and I just open up, you know, the mailbox one day, and there's like an ASCAP check, and he's like, woohoo, yeah, awesome, I'm going out to dinner tonight.
Yeah, a couple times. I mean, a couple times the check was so small that I'm just like, why even send it?
Yeah.
Like, you're wasting more money sending me the damn check. You know, it's like $2 or something.
Cost you more to pay the guy to process it. Yeah. That's kind of like back in the day, I came from the restaurant business, and I used to run restaurants, and at one point you would get the servers would actually they would get negative paychecks. Like, they would literally just have a $0 paycheck because of what they were claiming on their tips and the way that the states were taxing them and stuff. So they would get a paycheck, and the paycheck would say like non-negotiable. And I'd be like, I'm sorry to have to give you this. If you want to punch me in the face, I'm okay with that. I would want to if I was you. So I'll take one for the team, because you're taking one way worse than I am. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. So that is the reality, though, of the recording industry. You know, it's the business side of it is that it's all about the tours. You know, it's all about, you know, playing the shows, getting out there, hitting the road, and you know, as far as records go, I mean, the label's got to get their money back before they're going to give you anything.
Yeah, but you know, luckily for me, I do it more because I love doing it.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it for the money. I mean, obviously I got to live, but at the same time, you know, I do it from my own personal expression, and just because I mean, I like playing for metal people too. You know, I like the whole lifestyle of it. But yeah, if I didn't like it, I definitely would try to find something a little more lucrative. You know.
So you're not sitting on the millions, is what you're telling me.
No, it would be nice, you know, but yeah, no, it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Well, hey, you know, it is what it is. So, well, you know, I wanted to ask you earlier before we went down those rabbit holes, but as I was kind of digging around, I was just kind of plugging some stuff in, seeing kind of some stuff that pops up. I came across a really old Reddit post from you, and the Reddit post said, "Hi, I'm John McEntee. I play an Incantation. Ask me anything." And do you remember that? And
yeah,
from there,
relapse.
it was like 97 sub pages of craziness. And I was like, well, that's pretty cool that you opened up those floodgates. And I saw recently you kind of went on the old Facebook Live and did something similar. But I think that the interaction with the fans right now, and the friends, I guess, because, you know, you're going to get people that are your friends kind of hopping on your feeds. But is that something that you find to be an important part of what you do? Is that interactive piece?
Well, yeah. I mean, I like doing that stuff. You know, it's not really like a strategic plan or whatever, but I just like to, you know, like as at shows, I always hang out in the crowd. You know, make myself available if people want to chat or whatnot. So I'm always into, you know, communicating with the scene or just talking about metal or whatever. I'm just you know, like anybody that goes to our shows, I'm a music fan, you know, and stuff like that. And I don't mind, you know, people have questions about something that has to do with the band or something I know about. You know, I don't mind telling them, you know, it's cool to, you know, fill in people for info they might be interested in, you know, because I know for me, if I meet, you know, a band that I really like, you know, it's nice to hear some stories about stuff if I want to, you know, if I like the band or whatever.
Everybody likes the band history. I mean, it's kind of funny because you go, it's out there, you know, it's there. I've talked about it. It's there. Go, you know, but you can't say, go listen to this show or that show or go read this article or go pick up this, you know, hit parader from 1983 and go, I already answered that question. You know, what are you going to do? There is one story, though, that I wanted to ask you about that was in there because it was a very specific to a very specific show, which led to a very specific set of events. And so that story was of a stabbing at one of your shows with Mike. And so clearly the person was there, and apparently this guy had played in one of the bands or was supposed to have played in one of the bands that was opening for you guys that day. So tell us about what happened, if you don't mind. Just a crazy story.
Well, yeah, that was quite a while ago. That was on the Blasphemy tour, and I think it was '01, I think, or '02 it must have been. I think I can't remember, but yeah, it was a great tour. It was Immolation, us, and Goat Whore, and for us, we were really excited because we played shows at Immolation. We're good friends with them, but it was really nice to actually do a tour with them. But like the second show we played in Queens. I don't know. I think it was a Pyramid Club. I can't remember. But it really, it really sucked. We had a really shitty day.
Well, yeah, and it got shittier.
Yeah, we got there and we had a whole bunch of merch, and the venue wasn't open, so we got our merch and we counted it out kind of in front of the club in Queens, and basically when we brought what merch we needed in for the show, and then after the show, halfway through the show, we went outside and someone broke into our vehicle and stole all of our merch for the whole tour we were going to do. So they stole like wholesale about, I don't know, $8,000 worth of merchandise, you know? So we were already really in a bad mood, you know? And then we didn't know at that point, though, that there was going to be a stabbing. So we were just like, hopefully we could find a way to make it back, on the tour. But anyway, it was after the whole show, because Immolation finished playing, and it was something really stupid where our vocalist, guitar player at the time, Mike Sayers, his friend was at the show, and this guy got into his face and was like complaining to him that he was checking out his girlfriend or something like that. Like, this isn't Mike. This is Mikey's friend. I think his name was Scott. And Scott and this other guy, I think he was a Guatemalan kid or something. I can't remember. I don't know his name. But they ended up. A guy must have been really drunk or something, because he started like pushing Scott. They were kind of getting at it together, and Mikey seen like something starting to go down, and he runs into the middle of both of them, pushes them apart, try to be the peacemaker. They try to be the peacemaker. Well, he didn't realize that he wasn't pushing Scott, that he was actually stabbing Scott. And so when he pushed him away, he was still swinging his knife around and ended up slashing him like right in his, I don't know if it was the top I think it was the top. He slashed right here and cut his bicep basically in half. And the other guy, Scott, ended up getting, he got slashed in the face and he got stabbed. And, once Mikey was yelling or whatever, like, what, he was yelling, and Kyle was in the backstage. He was just changing out of his stage clothes to, Immolation didn't even play yet. Actually, it was right after our set, because Kyle was changing out of his stage clothes, and Kyle didn't even Kyle was like in his underwear, and he runs out, and it's like, because he heard Mikey yelling in distress and stuff. And he goes and then the dude runs away after he sees Kyle chasing him. And I was on the outside of the club, because I was trying to help the dude that got slashed or whatever. And I seen this dude just bolt right past me. And then I seen Kyle. He has no shoes on, no nothing. And he just his underwear, and it's like the winter time. So it's the snow out in the ground, and he's chasing this guy down the street, and the dude ends up, I guess, tossing the knife, and Kyle tackles him on something and starts like beating on him, and the cops end up coming, and the cops are like start put their guns on Kyle, because they're like, what's this guy doing running around the street in his underwear?
Yeah, he looks like the crazy one.
Yeah, and but then Kyle explained to him what happened and stuff, and they ended up taking the guy in, the dude that did the slashing. So yeah, it was a pretty crazy night. And basically, it's, you know, we had to cancel a tour obviously after that because first, I mean, we thought the merch was the worst part of the day, but then, you know, Mikey's, you know, was stabbed and stuff, so that totally screwed everything up. And he had to go to the hospital and get reconstructive surgery done on his, you know, muscle and stuff, and it was going to take him a while. And basically, he decided at that point that he didn't want to do the band anymore. You know, that, you know, he just I don't know. It was a real shame because we actually really liked Mikey. We thought he was doing a great job and he was a really nice guy and stuff. But he just seemed, you know, after that, he just wasn't the same. You know, maybe, you know, I guess, you know, I never got stabbed, so I don't know what it's like, you know, to get stabbed like that, you know, but it's, you know, life, it was, you know, it kind of changed him somewhat, you know.
Sure, yeah. That's got to go down in history as one of the most fucked up days. That's just absolutely crazy. And it wasn't, you know, long after that then that you kind of took on the role that you're doing now. I mean, you've always been in the band, but, you know, then you take over as a vocalist at that point, and that's kind of where we're at with Incantation now. So do you consider yourself really a vocalist, or you've always thought yourself more of a guitarist?
Well, now I consider myself a vocalist, but back then, no. I mean, I always wanted to be more like a Mike Torreo from Possessed. I wanted to be a songwriter, you know, and a guitar player. And but once Mikey left the band, you know, I had a talk with Kyle. We had a kind of a one-to-one and just said, like, one of us has to do vocals because, you know, we're not leaving or whatever, the band. And, you know, he basically told me, he says he can't do it. And I was like, I can't do it. But I said, oh, I'll try, you know. So I basically just practiced in my basement, growling to all the CDs, trying to learn the, you know, the early stuff that Craig Pillard did, learn the Daniel Corchado stuff and the Mikey stuff, and just try my best to, like, match the tones at first, not even, you know, I wasn't even worried about the quality, but I just had to, like, learn how to make notes out of growls or whatever, you know. So it took about a year of doing it. And then we played our first show. We booked 3 shows in Mexico. It was like kind of a warm-up show. So if I sucked totally, I'd only have 3 Mexican shows.
If you're gonna suck ass, then do it out of the country.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah. But the first time I heard it live, it wasn't as, say, strong and deep as I would prefer, but it did remind me of a really early, like, Morbid Visions era Sepultura sound.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, I could live with that. That's good. I mean, Max is the man, you know. So I was like, that was a good starting point or whatever, you know. And then from there, it took me a while. Like, for the first 2 albums I did vocals on, Decimate Christendom and Primordial Domination, I had a lot of Kyle kind of coaching me through it, you know, because everything I did I thought sucked, you know. I just didn't have the confidence, so I would just do it, and I'd have to tell him, like, you got to tell me if it's good, because if I do it, I'm going to just keep doing it over and over again, because I don't think it's good enough. And him and our engineer at the time, Bill Korecki, basically coached me through doing the vocals for those 2 albums. And but then after that, you know, by the time, like, I don't know, 2008 or 9 came around, I started to become more and more confident with it, you know. And then once we kind of got back after we did, it was kind of an album break for a little while until we did Vanquish and Vengeance. That was really the first one that I did that I felt like, you know, I was where I wanted to be, you know. Like, I always have other people coach me on stuff because I want to make sure that, you know, it's really good and not just good because I want to get done with it. You know, it's kind of like when you're doing, if you're when I'm tracking guitars, it's like sometimes I need someone else to tell me like, that just sucks, you know, because you like try to be extra optimistic with yourself. Like, oh yeah, I got this. But anyway, but yeah, Vanquish's Vengeance was the first one that like vocal wise for me that I really feel, I came into myself more, even though I sometimes get crap a little bit for the vocals not being as strong on Decimate or Primordial, but I do like those vocals. They're just not, they're not the same as the earlier stuff or the way they are now. They're a little more maybe mid-tony, maybe not quite as strong on the low end. But I mean, these days I feel really good. Actually, I feel way more confident in vocal wise. I mean, I've been getting a lot more recognized for my vocals lately, which is nice because, you know, I want to do the best I can. So it's nice that people seem to like it because there's still always a little voice inside you being like, man, it sucks, dude. You could do better than that, you know?
We all do that, though. You know, that'll never stop. That's like the fucking angel and the devil on your shoulder, right? You know, it's just like you got to knock one of those fuckers off. You know, it's crazy. And you know, it was never an option though back then when you and Kyle were talking about it's you or me. I mean, you had brought on other people in the past to take on that role. Yeah, that just didn't. That wasn't going to happen this time.
No, well, the problem was. And it's no disrespect to any of the former vocalists or we've had a bunch of people fill in for different things and stuff like that. And it's nothing against any of them. It's just that it's difficult to find somebody to do things the way you want them done. Because, I mean, the reality of it is, the Incantation concept started with me. It was my concept. And now Kyle and I really, it's really our thing. I mean, Chuck too, the bass player, he really contributes a lot. But it just after a while of looking for people, us three, I guess, really were able to have a good way of working together and knowing what stuff is acceptable for the band and how to do things or whatever. So the bottom line is, my point is finding a vocalist. It would just be a pain in the ass because we'd be telling them to do it this way, do it that way. We'd be telling them what to say between the songs, everything, because the vocalist is like presents the band live. We want like on the album, we want it done a certain way, or live, we'd be singing something in a different way. We'd get kind of annoyed and be like, no, just, keep it to how it's supposed to be or whatever. And, it's kind of not fair almost to the vocalists that we would get in the band because we'd be trying to push them to be somebody that we want them to be instead of who they are themselves. Yeah. So it's better. We knew that if I was to do it, it would be better because, first of all, I don't mind the criticism. Like, I don't get my butt hurt if someone says I suck at something or whatever. I'm like, yeah, I know, but I'm trying, Yeah. But the bottom line is, it's just nice to not have to tell somebody, this isn't good enough or whatever the situation might be. I could just, if it sucks, I blame myself and I work at it. Or if Kyle tells me something sucks, I say, okay, what's your opinion? What should I do to make it better? It's just easier, working with someone else, and telling them, I guess it's different. If the band was started with 4 people that had a similar concept, they want to go together and make a smorgasbord and see what comes out, that would be one thing. But the band was created with a focused idea, right? Like right when I left Revenant, this was like, this is, even though I started with Paul Ledney, I went with Paul Ledney because he had a similar concept as me, but it was my thing. I was like, I wanted to be this way. I was kind of stubborn. You could look at it almost like a solo project kind of thing where it's like, I want it this way. I want to find people that want to do it this way. You have to have a strict way about it because you can't get if sometimes other people's inputs is great and it adds flavor to the situation. Otherwise, sometimes other people's inputs takes away from the overall vision of the band. So, and the vocals area is such a difficult, it changes the mood to everything. And if the live performance isn't done properly or vocals on the album aren't done properly, it will just take whatever we're doing as a song and it'll suck. Because if the vocals suck, no one cares really if the music's good or not, But I mean, we've been very fortunate. I mean, Craig Pillar is an amazing vocalist. He did a great job on the albums he did. Daniel Crociato, on Diabolical Conquest, he did a phenomenal job. It was totally different style than Craig, and he nailed it, and it sounded great. And then Mikey did a great job on his stuff. So for me, I'm so fortunate because I got to learn from such great vocalists, and I was able to take all the stuff I learned from them and the stuff I wanted them to do, and I could do it, myself. But it was a lot of work to do. It wasn't like I just, said one day, okay, I'm going to do vocals, and just got up there and it sounded good,
Yeah,
it sucked for a long time.
Well, I don't know. You probably didn't suck that bad. I mean, you're one of the few bands though that's been able to survive multiple incarnations of vocalists and still kind of maintain your fan base. And I mean, everybody's going to deal with the purists, right? Those guys that they don't ever want anything to change, but that doesn't seem to really be a thing with Incantation. It's a thing, but it's not as in your face as you hear about with other bands.
Well, there's certain people that are stuck in their ways and they're always going to, one vocalist. Like, I look at it like this. Some people are just a fan of, we'll just say, Daniel Crociato's vocals. And, that's going to be their favorite album if they like his vocals that way. And no other vocalists in the bands ever sound like Daniel Crociato. And, it's fine. They could be, if they're a Daniel Crociato fan and they like our album because Daniel Crociato sang on it, that's great. That's cool. They don't have to be a fan of the band. I mean, if they think everything else sucks because it doesn't have Daniel Crociato on it, that's fine. It's okay. And the same thing goes for Craig or with Mike. It's like, and they're all great vocalists. So, some people look at it, they're a fan of, say, a certain member or vocals are, like you look at a band like Black Sabbath. Some people are Ozzy purists. Some people like Ozzy and Dio or Tony Martin.
I like Tony Martin.
I do too. But some people, they won't even give Tony Martin the time of day. Those albums, they want to hear just with Ozzy.
Oh, Headless Cross is so good.
Yeah, no, Headless Cross. I think Eternal Idol is an amazing one too.
One more rabbit hole. Yeah. No, man, it's awesome. I love the fact. I love what you guys are doing. I've been a fan for a long time. I come from your era of that scene, so I can appreciate where you are now versus where you've been. So, after 10 full lengths, a handful of EPs, a couple of live albums, a couple of splits, and some random awesomeness out there, then what's next for Incantation?
Yeah, we have a new album that's pretty much ready. I'm waiting to find out what we're going to do as far as release for, because I don't know what's up. So we have a new album ready, and we're working on another one now that we're just going to have to keep aside until whenever Relapse wants to release it, because I'm not going to want to release two albums right next to each other. But, we just been inspired to write and stuff like that. So we're just going with it. But I would say, for us, we're just going to continue writing music because that's what we do. We like to create new songs and record and do that kind of stuff. And then once this, pandemic stuff is, worked out and safe, we're going to go, back out on the road and just, continue doing what we do and try to do it as much as possible. And I think, I hope after this pandemic, people are going to feel the same way as I do, is that you're really going to appreciate being out on the road, a lot more than maybe what we were before this happened, because you realize that something could happen. I mean, who knows? It might be a year until shows are happening again. It's like something we took for granted, and maybe we didn't even go to all the shows that we could have or should have or wanted to.
Or that we said we'd go to, cough, me.
Yeah. So, but, now it's like, people will be happy if there's just, some local bands playing or whatever, and be able to, go to a small club, do anything, So I'm hoping that people are going to have the right, that kind of way of looking at things. And, for me, it'll just be great to get out and, play music and hang out with metal people and stuff like that. And I'm hoping that, things aren't going to change so much. So, I can still hang out with everybody at the shows and stuff like that. Cause that's, to me, part of the fun is, just hanging out and talking to my friends from everywhere. We tour so much over the years. I have like mixture between like longtime friends, like some friends that I knew from even before I played in Incan. Some of them moved to different parts of the country and come out to the show, and it's just amazing to be able to, travel so much, and every aspect of the touring, is great. I mean, yeah, it's difficult being away from home in certain circumstances, but I still appreciate the opportunity to get to play. I mean, it's something I've wanted to do since I was a young kid.
Yeah, well, I think it's awesome what you're doing. Congratulations on your career and for sticking around for 30 plus years in an industry where people just generally don't give it that much time. So this new album you got coming out, have you released any details? Is there a title yet? Is there anything you can give us tidbit wise?
The only thing I can say is that it's good. You like it.
It's good. The vocals are awesome.
No, there's no details yet. I'm not allowed to give any details of it.
It's going to be with Relapse.
Yeah, it's going to be on Relapse, and realistically, I mean, within the month, I should know something about the release as far as release date and stuff like that.
Cool.
But we do have stuff in the works, as far as like getting a lyric video organized, stuff like that, and we're really happy with the way it came out. It's, it's not like people are going to hear it and be like, it's totally different and it's not totally the same. It's basically like almost every album, it has its own flavor to it, but it still has all the fundamentals. And I'm happy with a lot of stuff because there was some really atmospheric parts to it, which I really like the having some of the doomier texture stuff,
Yeah.
But it's kind of weird to have. We're gonna have this new album come out, and my brain is gonna be focused on newer songs that we're writing for this next one. So it's actually kind of weird.
You're thinking one step ahead.
Yeah, like it's crazy because the stuff we have for the one even after this one. Yeah, so there's some really fun stuff. I'm really cool riffs that I'm like, I can't wait to record that. But I'm like, fuck, the last one isn't even out yet. So,
well, I think that's awesome. It gives us something to look forward to for a very long time. So you guys have all your ducks in a row. It sounds like you've got a pretty strong lineup. It's stuck around for a while. You're sounding better than ever. So I'm looking forward to seeing you guys out there on the road. Hopefully, if I get a chance to see you anytime soon, you'll have that fucking SP guitar done, and so we can see that one live. So, anything else that you want to pimp out before I let you get back to your day?
I guess the only thing I can think of is right now that Tribes of Pazuzu that I did played some guitar on.
Yeah,
you should check that out, and the Beast of Revelation album, which I did vocals on. That one's just came out probably about a month ago, and the reaction to that has been really killer. I mean, it's kind of a total death doom stuff, but I've been getting a lot of compliments on the performance on that, which I'm really happy about. And the music's really, really great too. So yeah, definitely check that out. And besides that, you know, you can check our website, the incantation.com website. We have, you know, it's where we'll post all like the major news, you know, about tour dates and stuff like that. And we also have a web store. So, you know, if you need a fix on any merch, we have that. And trying to think, yeah, and you can also check out while this pandemic's on, at least, and probably even afterwards, you know, every once in a while I'll be doing another chat thing like that on my Facebook. I do it on my I have a John McEntee fan page I do it on, because my personal page is maxed out, and it gets to be a pain in the ass, because, you know, I don't want to like delete somebody to add somebody to it, because I delete someone, they get pissed off. So
right.
I'd rather just, you know, if anyone wants to keep up on that, to go to the fan page for me or the Incan fan page. I haven't been doing the chats on the Incan fan page. I guess I could. I just I guess I should. We'll say that. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll do that once the album's out or something.
There
like
you
that.
go. We'll just push you in that direction. Give you a little nudge.
Yeah. So it's all good, you know. But thank you very much for the interview. I appreciate it.
Oh no,
really
dude!
Cool.
This has been awesome. Thank you for being super generous with your time. I know we went way longer than I think we had originally planned on, but there's just so much cool stuff that I think people love to hear about people that have been around in the industry for a while. So I appreciate you taking the time to hang out with me here on Misery Point and give us a little bit of your perspective on a scene that's constantly changing. So, John McEntee, thank you so much. I definitely appreciate it.
Cool. Thank you very much. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Like I said, OG Awesomeness. Make sure you keep your ears peeled for that new album, hopefully coming sometime soon. And in the meantime, buy some killer Incantation merch. And speaking of merch, you can also check out the Misery Point Radio merch store online and get your MPR geek on. And I'm getting ready to put some of the original merch on sale to make room for all the new stuff that's on its way soon. You can also just shoot me a message and I'll make a socially distanced delivery if you're local. And now, let's close this out with my favorite track off 2017's Profane Nexus. This one is called Visceral Hexahedron.